Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. Yeah, on the Bitcoin chart, we've seen a little bit of upside, but we want to take a look at the daily chart first before we talk about the smaller time frame. Few interesting things to talk about. Well, first of all, we have here on the daily chart still a reaction to that 1.38 extension level. It just acts as temporary support. And the price showed a bit of a reversal candle there, and we haven't formed a new low since then. That was since Friday. In addition to that, we can see a daily RSI bullish divergence, and this is getting interesting. Depends on the daily close now. I think the daily close could be important because we have a trend line on the daily RSI. Here you might see it, maybe not so well. Yes, it's not the most relevant one. I think up here, this one will be the more relevant one, the dotted line, but we already have a smaller, or let's say less relevant trend line. And trend lines on the RSI, I've always said they can indeed be relevant because they have in the past generated, or let's say indicated when such a correction is finished. The question is which one is the meaningful one, right? Now this one here has 4 touch points, so I find that more relevant. There is more space still, but this one here could react possibly today or so. So it's something to watch for. Watching for a breakout there. So as I said before, you know, I am generally not bearish on Bitcoin. I will turn less bullish in the short term if there is a break below 50,700, because this would be a break of my support area, which did hold for the last 3 months and has definitely been relevant. But if it breaks, it breaks, and then I will have to focus on alternative interpretations, like for example Bitcoin in a larger wave 4 with support between 48.6 and 42.7k. That doesn't make a great difference to the chart, okay? However, it will introduce uncertainty because it could also be that we're working on a larger triangle pattern. For example, that this wave 4, which presumably finished in November 22, that this wave 4, and I will change the color now because I don't want to have alternative scenarios with different, with the same colors actually. But if we say, okay, that could have been, the wave 4 might still be unfolding, right? Now, I don't have enough evidence for that, but it is technically possible that the initial move down was just an A wave. The rally into all-time high territory, a B wave, but of a triangle, yeah? Then this move down, a C wave. Then another D wave up, and an E. And then we deal with a triangle that could take years. That would be another alternative interpretation where I wouldn't be surprised if the price, if it breaks above the lower support area, around 48.6 to 42.7k, actually goes to the 30k region or even lower. Okay, so that would be, those would be my 2 alternative scenarios that I'm tracking at the moment on the Bitcoin chart, but none of them are preferred until we break below 50.6k. Now, in addition to that, if we go to the, if we add the Bollinger Bands, now I'm not using them for trading, but I'm constantly on the look for, let's say, not Bollinger Band strategy, 1 second. Bollinger Bands, so there you go. I wanted to add these, but I want to go to the weekly, but I'm constantly watching for, you know, indicators and check what works, what doesn't work. Just something interesting, because when we're dealing with the Bollinger Bands, right, and the price breaks one of these, breaks out basically, it often snaps back in, and that happened here, okay? Now this is on the daily chart. Now you can see, now I know a lot of people use them as breakout trades, for breakout trades, and they say basically if the candle closes below the lower boundary line, it's bearish. Well, I have never understood that, okay, because it's not, okay? It typically snaps back in, but then obviously you have to watch here this sort of middle line in the Bollinger Bands, which can then act as resistance. So basically we've moved down, okay, snapped back in, but got rejected here in the middle. Now, snapped back in, so we have to watch here the middle, which is around 60,800. So it's just something to, at the moment at least, it's dynamic. It's something to watch now, not only the daily here, yeah, but also on the weekly chart. on the weekly. And that doesn't happen very often. So it broke out of the weekly Bollinger Bands. Okay, so this is something where, again, people might say, oh, that's bearish. Well, didn't it happen here again, right? In November 20, happened as well, you know, in November 22. Now, this is interesting, okay? This is interesting because that was basically the last time that a candle on the weekly closed below the lower, you could say, band of the Bollinger Bands on the weekly. And that was the beginning of the bull market. Now, I'm not saying this is bullish. I'm just saying pay attention to it. I don't use the Bollinger Bands really, but obviously it's just something else to watch for. And then here, basically on the weekly, but I don't find here the let's say the middle line too relevant, right? That is at 65.3, 65.4K. It's certainly not the time to be bearish, at least based on historical data, that when the weekly Bollinger Bands gets broken to the downside, that people get bearish. No, that's not the time, at least not based on what happened before, right? I mean, look at this, turned around, right? Okay, it didn't close below, but it did close below here. So even here, I mean, but it didn't even close, it didn't close. Here it closed, that was in June 22, but also here you could argue we were very close to the low anyway, right? Here as well, well, that broke, but we had a different market at the time. Also the Elliott waves at the time told me we're in a bear market. Well, I haven't got that from the Elliott waves at the moment. So just something interesting. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to show you those kind of indicators from time to time. At least, you know, when there is something relevant. I think a break on the weekly Bollinger Bands, that is quite relevant. Again, I'm not seeing it as bearish, especially given that on the daily we also have that bullish divergence on the RSI and the supports are still holding. Now, it might be different if supports were starting to crack. Okay, but they're not. So it's something interesting. However, that doesn't mean I'm bullish in the very short term, because when we go to the smaller time frames, Bitcoin hasn't really provided a compelling case for a reversal here. It's possible, and I've been watching, I mean, since yesterday price has gone up a bit, and we've been watching for higher prices in the short term. You might remember that from the previous video. I also updated yesterday on our Discord server, that was here yesterday, late yesterday. We were at this trend line. Oh, you might remember that from the last video. Actually, we were at this short-term trend line. Now, I didn't find it that relevant, basically, because I had different exchange charts open, actually, on the exchanges. And yeah, they were already broken, not on my Tradingview chart here. So anyway, it broke, it broke on all these. And but the trend line is just an initial breakout signal. Obviously, we had the Fibonacci support zone here as well. And the commentary was that the price had reached the next trend line. What did I say? Okay, my preferred interpretation is that Bitcoin will rally in a corrective manner. So we expected further upside to complete yellow wave B as a WXY structure. Okay, you know, just that was basically the message. And here on the smaller time frame, we see that this is currently being fulfilled. Okay, so the idea is that this larger fourth, yeah, it might have bottomed here. I'm talking about the fourth wave that started in March, but I would need to see, to believe it, I need to see all 5 waves filled in the white count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it is only possible really as a diagonal pattern, so that makes it questionable. That means for the white count, which is the more bullish one, I need to see wave 3 at least get to 61,420. Then we can talk further. In the short term, I was watching for higher anyway from down here. And the C wave in the yellow wave count, which allows for one more low, okay, one more low in our support region with support at 50.7K. One more low can happen. But in the short term, we're watching for that corrective rally to form a little, you know, larger B wave. And the micro count is WXY. And then in the Y wave, we have this A, B, C structure. Now there are 2 levels that matter in the short term. 58,966 is the 100% extension of, I think, wave W. Let me just double check that. No, that's of the A wave, yellow wave A. That's a key target for wave C. Yeah, it can always go higher, but that's one key level, one possible resistance level. And then 59,394 is the 100% extension of wave W that also does matter. So these are two levels to observe. If we push above them and sustain, then it could take us to 61,420, and then that is when the white count becomes more probable. Okay. Now it does take a break below yesterday's low at 55k to really confirm we've topped here. Okay, and that we head down to 50.7k, which means at the moment, while I record this video, there is no sign that we have topped in the yellow B wave. So short term, I think still higher possible. However, I don't really trust the white count until I see it. Yeah. Looking at the bigger picture, I still definitely am watching for reversals, but I need to see that actual reversal on the smaller time frame before we all get too excited too early. I think that's the best way to approach this, because I mentioned it a few times now, I need to see on those smaller time frames now the trend turn to the upside as well, where the larger assumption is still bullish, the smaller time frame is still a bit bearish, and this here all is corrective price action, overlapping, not impulsive, and therefore I'm skeptical about a reversal, but it can happen from this region. I mean, this is where it needs to happen, right? Either from here or after one more low, or I have to change my overall chart. Not for major adjustments, but it would delay the rally to 100k plus. Yeah, that's my update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.